So we wanted to get into some audio yesterday from Lynnell Willingham, host on 106.7 The Fan and on the Team 980. I believe one of his many nicknames is the youngest in charge, if I'm correct on that.
Yes.
He called in.
He's part of the youngest in charge movement.
Yes, he is. He called into the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Had some interesting things to say about one Sam Howell.
The stuff he did off schedule is just, it's top 10 quarterback stuff. It's Dak Prescott. It's Kirk Cousins. I think if he's going to play like that, he's for damn sure in that conversation. And I think it changes the way you need to look at the offseason moving forward, especially since the darling that everyone's drooling over, Caleb Williams, can't play on schedule. I'd rather have Sam Howell than Caleb Williams at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, as far as Caleb Williams goes, like, he shouldn't even be on the Commanders' radar because you're going to be picking too late to get him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's going to go number 1 or number 2, no matter who picks him.
They could trade up for him.
Okay, but I find that unlikely. But I don't even think you worry about Caleb Williams at this point. But it's just, from what I know about Lynnell's stance on Sam Howell,
That's
it's a
a
big
180.
It's a big-time heel turn by Lynnell.
Yeah, wasn't Lynnell big-time anti-Howell?
Believe that was the case.
Didn't understand why they were starting him. Was big on Brissett should be the starter. Should get all the reps.
By the way, in hindsight, the Commanders probably should have dealt Brissett to the Browns. There was a lot of
Well,
smoke
it depends
there.
if they had an offer.
Well, I'm sure they had an offer at some point because now the Browns are desperate for a quarterback. They're going to be rolling out DTR, but that's a side
Prior
note.
to the trade deadline, they may not have been as desperate.
Well, I mean, Deshaun Watson was limping through the season. But again, that's a side note. That's a different story. We're trying to concentrate on Sam Howell, and he's won over Lynnell, and he was not a Howell guy.
Well, you should be allowed to be won over. I mean,
sure.
No, you can. When we started the season, all of us said, like, let's see 6 games. EB was like, let's see 4 games, whatever it was.
I always maintained I was cautiously optimistic and that he was being slandered for one reason, and that was just because of where he was drafted. That's what I thought.
I think that's part of it, certainly. Yeah. You're betting the odds. Like, I'll admit, I was betting the odds. The odds, not just the fifth-round pick.
Using my eyes.
Fifth-round pick and a young quarterback.
Right.
Most young quarterbacks, I mean, C.J. Stroud is a complete outlier. Most guys, and I was often pointing to Trevor Lawrence, who's actually not even having a great third year, but Trevor Lawrence struggled in his first season, and then he got better. Most guys who start in the league as rookies, they take their lumps, and they get better. So I was just kind of betting the odds.
Yeah, what C.J. Stroud is doing in Houston,
he's playing good
impressive.
football. He's making good throws. And really, like, it's changed because Josh Allen has passed it. I think last week, one of the knocks against Sam Howell would be he was leading the league in interceptions. But 4 of those were in one game, right, against the Bills.
The Bills game, yeah.
And now I believe Josh Allen is the league leader in interceptions. So the knocks against Sam would have been the interceptions and the sacks. Been better the last month. It's undeniable. He's not getting sacked as much as he was before.
And I told you that was
adjusted. They made changes along the offensive line to help him.
This will be a test. Scheme around.
This will be a test against the Giants.
I agree
because they came after him and sacked him six times.
That's why the fact that they're like 9.5 or 10-point favorites, or whatever, I don't care who they're starting at quarterback, is a little crazy to me. It's a little crazy. It's out of line.
It's starting to scare me because I know we have our Survivor play, and my initial lean
all you got to do is look at what happened the last time we played them. I'm pro Howell. I like what we're doing offensively, but we really struggled to handle them.
And, we're always proponents on this show of the do theory. And last week, I picked the Cardinals, for example, and they had Kyler Murray coming back and they had James Conner, so there were some things to point to, but it's the NFL. Most teams, even the worst teams, will win 3 or 4 games. The Houston Texans last year won 3. I think they also had a tie. I think they were 3-13-1. They were an awful team. So the Giants are going to probably win another game this season. I don't think they're going to go 0 for the rest of the season.
I agree. For their sake, better hope that it's not this Sunday at FedEx Field.
I agree.
They're not going to have many spots. This is one of their spots that they're looking at. They're probably looking at it, well, this is our chance maybe to get another win.
I want to hear from the listeners, 800-636-1067. If you were like Lynnell at the beginning of the season, where you, like, basically a Howell hater or non-believer? Have you been won over like Lynnell has clearly been won over by Sam Howell's play so far?
I think a lot of
have you
people
guys gone on record? Would you take Howell over Caleb?
No.
Right now, if you could.
Based on look, I'm not a big college football guy.
You have a trade in place. The new GM can put one in place. They're able to get Caleb.
You have to trade to get Caleb.
Probably got to trade up.
Keep Sam.
He's just saying who's going to be the better quarterback. He's saying that right now he would rather have Sam Howell if he had the option or Caleb Williams.
I would take the upside of Caleb Williams personally, and that's not a slight on Howell. I just I'm a
very difficult
well-noted
question.
quarterback snob as to where guys are picked, their pedigree, where they should be selected, according to the NFL front office guys. And I just feel like Caleb Williams' ceiling is much higher than Sam Howell.
I haven't seen him enough, but everybody says he's a la Pat Mahomes.
Right.
It'd be hard to bypass Patrick Mahomes because let's say Howell's proven himself he can be a starter in this league. Let's say Howell can be as good as Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ain't Pat Mahomes. If you're telling me the other guy can be Pat Mahomes, if you took this as a given that Sam Howell was Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield or whoever you want to say he is.
Well, Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, that's a big difference.
But
sure.
But
I'm saying pick somebody like that. But he's not Patrick Mahomes.
If I'm the Commanders and it comes down to keeping Sam Howell on a cheap deal or mortgaging your future by trading 3 first-round picks to move up, I keep Sam Howell. You see, I'm like in this specific case, I would keep Sam Howell.
But if you could have one,
picture,
but if you had one or the other, you would take Caleb.
If I had one or the other, I would take Caleb Williams.
What I think people are a little bit drunk on Howell IPA right now. He's played a few good games, but everyone's getting out of hand. I saw John DePompa the other day, noted caller to the Junkies, say that this is
former caller.
Say this is the best job opening in the NFL because of Howell in the last 5 years.
Yeah. He also threw in the cap space.
Okay, the cap space,
Extra
whatever.
picks.
A lot of teams have a lot of teams with cheap quarterbacks and number 1 picks have cap space.
The artist formerly known as John DePompa.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Impressive. But
because
look, Rick Spielman, former Vikings general manager, I saw him on TV the other day. He listed off Caleb Williams and who he would rather have over Caleb Williams. He took Caleb Williams over John Elway coming out, over Peyton Manning coming out, over any quarterback over the last 30 years besides Andrew Luck, who he said is 1A and Caleb's 1B. That's how an enticing prospect Caleb Williams is. And we got Lynnell saying Sam Howell's better than him because he threw 2 screen passes to Brian Robinson that went for 100 yards.
Nobody thinks those. Well, first of all, those 2 plays were awesome. They were awesome.
And those were Mahomes-like. Those were Mahomes-like off-schedule
those were
angle
awesome
plays. To his credit, he also made a great throw to De'Ami Brown.
Yeah,
over 2 linebackers.
I mean, it should be noted, and I know my buddy like Ryan Keel says it's all marketing and it's meaningless, but he has the most big time throws of anybody on PFF.
I was gushing about that throw on Monday that tied the game to Brown.
He also has the most pass
screen
attempts.
Passes, Seahawks lost.
That's true.
So I mean, what is his big time throw percentage?
Okay, it's probably not number 1 because he throws so many balls.
The most encouraging thing is that it seems like he can adapt. I think that's the most encouraging thing.
I think
taking less sacks.
Yeah, well, I think they've schemed around him.
Well, it's also I think he's doing
making quicker decisions.
Yeah.
And also
he's
not
making
get down.
Yes.
He has a terrible play. He'll have some terrible plays, and they come right back and take him down. And
I think that's the most encouraging thing about him is that he seems like he can adapt.
The
He seems like he can learn.
The only thing I'll say about Caleb Williams,
unlike Zach Wilson, who's doing the same dumb crap every single game.
I often like the known more than the unknown.
Sure.
And I feel like Sam is getting close to pretty known. Like, I'm not that surprised by what Sam does. I kind of feel like I have a pretty good grasp of Sam Howell right now. Caleb Williams could be a superstar, but man, I mean, everyone thought Bryce Young was going to be a superstar. Maybe not like Caleb Williams.
He still could be.
He still could be. Everybody thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be a superstar, like the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Not really working out that way. He's fine.
People are tantalized by size.
He's fine, but he ain't the best quarterback since Andrew Luck.
Who do you think Howell is like right now in the NFL? I think he looks a lot like just this season's production. It's not a knock. He's like Baker Mayfield.
I see
which
the comparison.
Is a starter
good
in the
Baker
league.
Mayfield.
Yeah, he's
like
a
Baker,
better
Mayfield.
version of him.
Like
Baker's
his
rookie
best year.
No, I would say Baker's this year. Baker this year is having a good year.
Baker has a higher QB rating this year than Sam Howell.
Correct.
I haven't seen him enough, so I've just seen bad Baker recently. But I know
I don't
good
know when.
Baker. I know good Baker. I don't mind that comparison. I don't mind it. I see the similarities. I just don't know. Like, there's
Baker
so many
Mayfield
guys.
this
But
year.
you thought Zach Wilson was going to be a star.
Baker
You
Mayfield.
thought Zach Wilson was going to be a star.
I don't
you
know
were a
that.
big Zach Wilson guy.
I don't think I was a big
Zach
Zach.
Wilson's my guy. Zach Wilson's my guy.
I
You're
never
not
said
talking
that.
about Zach
Never
Wilson.
said Zach Wilson. You gotta find that
Zach
tape.
Let's
Wilson
find that
was your
tape,
guy.
buddies.
He was your West Coast guy. Go back
I
to the
hate
tape.
BYU. I could not hate BYU more than
Zach
anybody
Wilson
on the planet.
Was your guy.
He's
He
never
might be a
my
Bo
guy.
Nix
You
guy.
gotta be you gotta do a Zach Wilson QB thing. Everyone's hyping up Zach Wilson.
Okay, well, yeah. But I tell you what people are talking about. Yeah, you should do a QB.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Drive being big on Zach
He
Wilson.
was big on Zach
No,
Wilson.
he's trying to tweak me.
No. It's a thing.
But who do you compare Howell to right now? So Baker this
Baker,
year,
I think, also,
14 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Put it this way.
QBR's better, 56.4. Pass rating, as he said, is better on the season. If you want to go old school pass rating, he's at a 93.7.
I actually think
Howell's at 91.
I actually think he passes. He reminds me a little bit of Cousins, but he can run. So he's like Kirk Cousins
mobile
who can run.
Cousins.
A mobile Cousins. Kind of reminds me of that. I don't know. I don't think that means superstar, but I think it means pretty good.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
Hal could be pretty good.
I mean, Howell could be better. Like, my feel on him now is if you went with him as a starter, you're going to have a starter who's not elite like the potential that Caleb Williams has. You're right. It's betting on a known. Do you want a middle-of-the-pack quarterback? And maybe Howell can be better than middle of the pack, but let's just say he's middle of the pack. Or do you want the possibility of a Patrick
In
Mahomes
his
type?
first starting season, unless catastrophe hits or he's injured, he's going to throw for between 28 and 30 touchdowns. And if you had
Right.
said that before the season, hey, Sam Howell's going to throw 29 touchdowns and 12 or 13 picks, you would take that every day of the week. You'd be like, you know what, that touchdown number is kind of high. He's on track for that. He's on track for about 28 to 30 touchdowns. And he gives you a little bit of a rushing upside, too.
Thanks, Cakes. I like
Now, I
that.
also didn't expect
I mean,
him to throw 50 times a game.
Well,
Eric
you know what?
Bieniemy,
That also
a lot of
shows
people
Bieniemy
thought,
trusts him.
I know, just the unknown before the season
Right.
was, Eric Bieniemy's a former running back. They're going to run the football a lot.
Eric Bieniemy knows how the game is played in 2023. He knows winning football is not giving the ball to your stupid running back 40 times per game. It's not how you win games. Unless you have Derrick Henry in his prime, it's not how you win games in the NFL. And he gets it. Eric Bieniemy's my guy. Loves to throw the ball. Love you, Eric Bieniemy.
The next
We're
closest guy
simpatico.
to him in terms of pass attempts is Josh Allen, and he's 47 less pass
You know
attempts
what?
in 10
and
games.
I hope that Bieniemy being pass happy drives Ron crazy. I hope it drives Ron nuts. Because I'm sure it goes against everything in Ron's, every fiber of his being to be so pass happy. But that's the way the game is played now.
To answer, though, the question at hand, and we can open up the callers at 800-636-1067, would you roll the dice on Caleb Williams, which is a play on potential?
Mhm.
Now, the scouts all say he's going to be, the next Patrick Mahomes. Or do you stick with the known commodity, Sam Howell? I would be team Caleb Williams, but we do know that basically 50% of the top 2 picks bust.
Right. I like what Cake said. I think this is what Cake said. That if the idea was you had to trade assets to move up to get Caleb Williams versus just keep Hal and build around Hal, I'd rather have Hal. If you've got the pick that you could select Caleb Williams, well, I would take him.
Right. All right,
But I don't want to trade assets up to get him.
We have Dylan Strom coming up next. Go to line 3 real quick.
Go to David, DC. David, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going? Love the show.
Thanks.
Initially, I wanted us to tank. I wanted a whole regime change. I wanted the GM to pick the coach to be able to draft the quarterback. Hal has completely changed my perspective. What he's done in his first 11 games, I think, is remarkable. I just he's just very poised, very accurate, most pass attempts. And I think you have to ride with him because you're not going to be the only 2 superstar potential quarterbacks in this draft are Drake May and Caleb Williams. They're going to go respectively 1 and 2, and you're not going to trade up for them. Look what the Panthers did last year. They initiated that prematurely, and they're paying the price. Had they waited 1 year, they might have their own first overall pick and not have to leverage the future. So you absolutely want to stick with Howell. And I'm very confident in him. People forget that, like, before he came back for his senior season, he was projected to be the first quarterback taken in that draft. I mean, something, very similar to what happened with Herbert coming back his senior year and having a lot of turmoil and things like that. Really, it impacted his perspective and what people were. How
his
how
stock dropped. We understand
Now
that.
you're sputtering. But thank you. It's a good point.
He ran out of steam.
Yeah.
That's
And trust me,
hilarious.
we don't forget that he was projected to be the first quarterback out.